quickly close the door and put a little bit more light, perhaps. There we go. So the sun is shining outside. It's a beautiful day. Hopefully it's a beautiful day where you are as well. I'm going to quickly pin myself for the video. There we go. It's a beautiful day, but it's a little bit dark in here. It's always a little bit dark in here. We didn't get the most sun-facing, or I didn't get the most sun-facing room for the office, which is completely fine. But anyhow, it is good to see you all. And I need to today make sure that I don't touch the table as much because it makes everything wobble. So we're just going to hold it steady and not touch the table. So here is the Friday reading day. So as always, we still have the Rich Dad Poor Dad in Chinese, but I probably can't even read it that well in Chinese, and most of you won't be able to understand it. So we're going to stick with The Art of Thinking Clearly. Yesterday we read chapter 31. I cannot believe that it's already been a whole month worth of reading that we've done. How to relieve people of their millions. And today we are talking about why evil strikes harder than good, loss aversion. Let's get into it, and we'll just say a quick hello or press some buttons to say hello to Juby at Art Fight. Very nice. And somebody else also saying hello. There we go. Sheila, good to see you as well. Okay, here we go. Why evil strikes harder than good? That is a good question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good do you feel today? Now consider what would bring you up to a perfect 10. That vacation in the Caribbean you've always dreamed of. That would be very good, especially if you're not able to travel right now. A step up the career ladder, maybe. Next question. What would make you drop down by the same number of points? Paralysis, Alzheimer's, cancer, depression, war, hunger, torture, financial ruin, damage to your reputation, losing your best friend, your children getting kidnapped, blindness, death. Oh, that's not a lot of fun. The long list of possibilities makes us realize just how many obstacles to happiness exist. In short, there are more bad things than good, and they are far more consequential. Not sure I agree with that. There are probably just as many good things that can get us to a perfect 10, but we just struggle to find them because we're more focused on the negative, because it helps us to stroke our ego and feel better about ourselves. We like to complain. We like to say that we have challenges and obstructions that are holding us back, rather than admitting that we're not taking the action or not doing what we need to in order to be able to get to that other side. That's an interesting way of looking at it too. In our evolutionary past, this was even more the case. One student mistake and you were dead. Everything could lead to your rapid departure from the game of life, carelessness on the hunt, an inflamed tendon, exclusion from the group, and so on. However, there were also lots of people that survived, and every choice was a positive one, and you would actually live to adulthood, shall we say. I find this interesting where this is headed. People who were reckless or gung-ho died before they could pass the genes on to the next generation. Those who remained, the cautious, survived. We are their descendants. So apparently we are all purely cautious people. There are quite a few reckless people I see out there, though. So that's really interesting where we're headed with this. So no wonder we feel loss more than we value gain. Losing $100 costs you a greater amount of happiness than the delight you would feel if I gave you $100. And also, I think one of the reasons why we're not necessarily that cautious in real life is because we've also eliminated a lot of the dangers. So yes, back in the past, we come from cautious people that obviously had to be careful when they were hunting, they had to be careful with all of these different things. However, having said that, we've eliminated a lot of predators in our life. We've eliminated a lot of the worries and things that can hold us back. So at the same time, we have the opportunity to take more risks and do things like that. So this is a very interesting chapter so far. Then the delight, if I would give you $100. In fact, it's been proven that emotionally, a loss weighs about twice that of a similar gain. Social scientists call this loss aversion. It's also true with regards to positive or negative thoughts. A negative thought weighs very highly on us. Positive thoughts are actually more powerful, though. So yeah, I think we did a chapter 2 days ago about balance and how everything doesn't automatically go back to the mean. But in this case, I think there is balance there. For this reason, if you want to convince somebody about something, don't focus on the advantages. Instead, highlight how it helps them dodge the disadvantages. Here's an example from a campaign promoting breast self-examination. 2 different leaflets were handed out to women. Pamphlet A urged, research shows that women who do breast self-examinations have an increased chance of finding a tumor in the early, more treatable stage of the disease. Pamphlet B said, research shows that women who do not do breast self-examination have a decreased chance of finding a tumor in the early, more treatable stage of the disease. The study revealed that pamphlet B, written in a loss frame, generated significantly more awareness and breast self-examination behavior than pamphlet A, written in a gain frame. The fear of losing something motivates people more than the prospect of gaining something of equal value. Suppose your business is home installation. The most effective way encouraging customers to purchase your product is to tell them how much money they are losing without installation, as opposed to how much money they would save with it, even though the amount is exactly the same. It's quite interesting because there are different schools of thought around this, because obviously, yes, if you're going to be selling home installation, people are going to be more motivated if they think that they're going to be losing money or if they think that there's another disadvantage to it. But we live in a world where we are surrounded by a lot of negative. And sometimes it's better to just turn the TV off and not focus on the negative. And with the breast self-examination, it also becomes a question of, do I live in fear of this? And this is a really challenging one because it's very controversial. So yes, the negative one is definitely going to draw more attention. But thinking about it, the question becomes, is thinking about it something that's going to aggravate and cause us to have something that we might not otherwise have had? So it goes very deep, this one. But for now, let's just focus on the fact that we are more motivated by fear and we're more motivated by negatives to actually take action than we are to take action when we see a positive outcome from something. The fear of losing something motivates people more than the prospect of gaining something of equal value. I think we've already talked about that one. So this type of aversion is also found on the stock market, where investors tend to simply ignore losses on paper. After all unrealized loss isn't as painful as a realized one. So they sit on the stock, even if the chance of recovery is small and the probability of further decline is large. This is a very interesting one because I've had stocks that go down. And when the stock goes down, we tend to hold on to it. We become extremely possessive of it. And sometimes we have to, well, actually, I had an example. So I bought stock in a supermarket chain over in the Netherlands. The stock had gone down dramatically. And I knew that it was the biggest supermarket chain. The government wasn't going to let it fail. Everything was going to be okay with it. But it just gone down deeply because of lots of different things that the management had done that wasn't good. Management got replaced. They put in some really good management. I did some fundamental analysis on them. And so I held on to the stock. It took 11 years for the stock to recover. So I just held on. So now, yes, then it tripled in value. So it did very good, but it took 15 years for me to really make a good return on it. Had I have taken that money out when it went down further, when I initially bought it, I could have put it into something that was making money, and I probably could have gotten a higher return during that time. So it begs the question of whether you hold on and you know that you're in there for the long term. And it's possible to also have a look at alternatives and see what the difference is. And we might actually do this at some stage, because this is an interesting experiment. I am going to write this down. And yes, if I write anything on the table shakes. So that's why the camera shakes. But I've written that down. Okay. I once met a multimillionaire who was terribly upset because, and I turned the page too quickly. Oh, and I turned it to the wrong page. That's why. Because he had lost a $100 bill. I ended up turning 2 pages. No wonder it didn't make sense. What a waste of emotion. I pointed out that the value of his portfolio fluctuated by at least $100 every second. Management gurus push employees in large companies to be bolder and more entrepreneurial. The reality is employees tend to be risk averse. From their perspective, this aversion makes perfect sense. Why risk something that brings them at best a nice bonus and at worst a pink slip? Unless you are the kind of boss who's not going to give up pink slips for people to be able to be risk averse. To do something which is a little bit more risky. When you do this, people will know that it's okay, that there is no negative to it, and they will perform for you. They will perform very well. And thank you for the beautiful flowers, Gerald. Nice to see you. Oops. Okay, so the downside is larger than the upside. In almost all companies and situations, safeguarding your career trumps any potential reward. So if you've been scratching your head about the lack of risk-taking among your employees, now you know why. However, if employees do take big risks, it is often when they can hide behind group decisions. And this is chapter 33, which is tomorrow, social loafing. We can't fight it. Evil is more powerful and more plentiful than good. Don't completely agree with that. There is a lot of good in the world, but very often we choose to look at the negative because we are obsessed by it. We want to be able to be the poor, pitiful people that have all of these negative things happening. And we stop focusing on or looking at how we can achieve things because we see all this negative and we forget that there's a lot of good, and we only see small little bits of it because that's what we choose to see. We are more sensitive to negative than to positive things. That's true. On the street, scary faces stand out more than smiling ones. Doesn't have to, but that's what happens because we have a different emotional reaction to it. So we forget the smiling, happy people, but we remember when we see the person full of tattoos that we're scared of, or the person who looks like they're in a gang and they're about to jump us and ask us for money, because it has a consequence. The happy people don't have a consequence, but they are there. So we remember bad behavior longer than good. Except, of course, when it comes to ourselves. So this is a very interesting chapter. Let's have a look. Mladen's written something in the Zoom. Let's have a look at what Mladen has written. Just need to move the phone over a bit. Many people advise to think positive, not to attract negativity and ignore risks. This is the first time I find there is research about talking negative turning into positive results. I do this frequently, being judged harshly for being right. This is powerful. Yes, I absolutely agree. It's very good and important. So that is amazing. So it's also a balance. So we want to see what we want to see out in the world, and we can shift that focus a little bit. So rather than only seeing the negative, we can also see some positive. But it doesn't mean that we should only focus on the positive and ignore the negative either, because that can still get us into trouble. So, for example, if we ignore that the stock has gone down and we don't think about whether we can take the money out and put it into something that will make money more quickly. So let's say, for example, that stock that I had, if I had to hold it for 15 years before it actually started to make a good profit. In the meantime, I could have taken out that money as a loss, and I could have put it into things that were actually making money at the time, and I might have been able to make my money back and more and gotten to the same position within 5 years or 6 years. But I could have done it quicker than those 15 years. So it's important to see what's out there and to focus on what we need to focus on in that moment, rather than only focus on the negative and forget that there's positive, or only focus on the positive and ignore the negative, which is also not really good. Doesn't really help anybody either. So that was a very interesting one. I love it when we go deep into the topic, and there's a lot of things to look at. So that was chapter 32, and tomorrow we're going to have a look at chapter 33, why teens are lazy, social loafing. So I already have an idea, and probably you do too, which direction that will take, but let's see what the interesting commentary will be that we'll be able to add to that one. So it was great to see you all. Have an amazing day. Have a great weekend. I always say see you tomorrow on a Friday. So today I actually realize it's Friday, and I know that I'll see you on Monday. So recharge the batteries. Have a great weekend. And yeah, have a think about your investing and have a look at the positive and negative. I think this is a really great way to end the week and give you something to think about over the weekend. So as always, I love hearing back from you. So thank you, Mladen, for your comment. That was amazing. I'm glad that you had a really good aha moment from this. If you are on the Bigo Live, I love seeing your comments as well. I don't always see them when I'm reading. That's a little bit more challenging. But it's amazing seeing some regular faces now, and I'm glad that you're enjoying the reading and the commentary. And I love to hear your thoughts as well, so feel free to leave comments. Obviously, if you're on the Zoom Live, you can also leave comments. And if you are watching on the YouTube, then I also love seeing your comments. I still see them, even though it's not live. But I love hearing your thoughts, and I love the discussion that comes out of these videos. So have a great weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday, and we will go through chapter 33, and I'm excited and looking forward to it. So I'll see you all then.